welcome back. Now, it looks like we're having dessert for dinner tonight, aren't we?
Well, I'd have this for my dinner every night.
Yeah, I'd love it.
Gorgeous.
Aoife, these are beautiful.
I baked them fresh just for you this morning.
So they're blondies?
These are blondies. So like a brownie, but just there's no chocolate in them.
Okay.
So they're chewy, they've got a bit of vanilla, they've got some brown sugar in there. And I'm going to make this into a kind of Blackberry Cheesecake Blondie with a few different layers in it.
All right.
Okay. So I'm using my stand mixer here just because it makes things much easier. But you can, of course, do it by hand.
No, whatever makes it easier, that's the way to do it.
If you want a bit of a workout.
Yeah.
Soft butter. Always bake with soft butter unless you're making pastry.
So leave it out.
Leave it out.
While, yeah.
I leave it out like the night before, or I actually always have a block of butter just kind of out for baking.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm just going to cream that together till it's nice and smooth, and then I'm going to add 2 eggs. So this is kind of like a sponge recipe. I'm using brown sugar. This is like a traditional kind of way. Well, brown sugar is traditional in blondies, and it adds a really lovely kind of like chew and a really like nice kind of texture. So that is in there with the sugar and the butter. Okay. I'm going to add some eggs. I pour it into a jug first because it makes it easier to pour it into the bowl. Just a little tip.
And all at once it goes in?
I'm just putting 1 egg in. I have 2 eggs, so I'm going to do one by one, let it kind of come together, and then add the next one. And then as soon as it's kind of combined, I'm going to add a little bit of vanilla extract. Vanilla extract is beautiful in any sort of cake. I'm adding a little ½ teaspoon there. And then all that's left to go in really is the flour and salt. So I've essentially sieved my flour, salt, and a little bit of baking powder just into this bowl. If you want to use self-raising flour, you can just leave out the baking powder.
Okay.
So I'm using plain flour here, okay? So once it kind of comes together, it's like a basic kind of sponge mix, I suppose. I might just stop it and put the flour in, or else it will go everywhere. I might just scrape it down a little bit.
Switch that out and the flour would go everywhere.
It has done many times.
Oh, it has?
Yes.
And with the mixer that you're using, is it worth the investment? You know, obviously they're not, well, are they cheap? They're not really. Like what you've got there, like that's probably top of the range. Is it worth investing in if you're going to be baking a couple of times a week?
Do you know what it is? And you can use an electric beater. You can use one of these stand mixers. People do it by hand. I mean, I used to bake by hand all the time. But I mean, if you are baking a lot, it really does like cut your baking time in half, really. Yeah. Like, you know, you're just whacking it all in and you're not, you know, out of breath.
Do you have baking snobs who, if they hear that you're using machine, go, oh, right, yeah.
Why?
Yeah, I know,
wouldn't
but some
say
people
so.
can't be like that.
Oh, you mean like, you know...
You're not doing it by hand.
Not doing it old
so
school.
You're using a machine, are you?
I am using a machine. Look, it does the work for you and they're great. I'm adding a little bit of milk here.
Okay.
This isn't traditional in a blondie recipe, but what it does is it adds like a kind of lightness. So traditionally blondies are quite dense and chewy. Like a perfect brownie would be kind of really gooey and kind of like chewy, whereas the milk here just adds a nice lightness. So I'm adding my milk there, and then you get a nice smooth batter. And that is essentially the base of the blondie, cheesecake blondie.
All right.
So I have a tin here that I have lined with a little bit of parchment paper. I'm using a square tin, and I've preheated my oven to 180 degrees or 150 if you're using a fan oven. And
That's quite low then, isn't it?
yeah, I mean, it's not, well, it's kind of, it's medium, I suppose. It's not too high. We don't want to burn it.
Okay.
And that just goes straight into my tin. And everything is going to be layered here in the tin, and then I'm going to bake it. So what's nice as well is that I've done this recipe with like blueberries, with blackberries, with raspberries, and you can really change it to, you know, whatever you like or whatever is in season. Okay. So you can pop a few little blackberries in there, just stick them in, but I'm going to keep it pretty straightforward tonight and just have it kind of neutral like that.
And generally out of a tin that size, you're going to get about 9 or so?
Yeah, I love to cut this into like 9 squares. It's like perfect 9 squares. And just smooth it out.
There's 4 each, and then we're fighting over the other one.
Exactly, there will be a fight, yeah.
Okay, so the next layer then is the cheesecake part. So I'm going to move that to the side, and it's really easy, okay? I've got cream cheese in here with a bit of butter and a bit of sugar, room temperature, so that it comes together nice and easy. And then I'm going to add 2 eggs. You can add a little bit of vanilla in there. You can add a little bit of lemon zest, orange zest is really nice.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep it nice and neutral. And then you want to just whisk it together till it's nice and smooth. And then that essentially goes on the top of this blondie kind of batter. And then what you get then is a kind of ripple effect. And it kind of sinks down a little bit, and it's just really, really nice. You get that kind of little cream cheese kind of layer as well.
Gorgeous.
So that goes on the top, essentially, like blob it on. And then is the fruit layer, and that's it. I'm using blackberries today because they're in season. I have some growing in my garden at the moment.
Okay.
And, I mean, I didn't pick these from my garden, but I've just mashed them up here. Just like crush them with a fork.
And if you choose to, you could mix them up too.
Yeah, exactly. Crush them gently. I'm adding a little bit of lemon juice just to kind of brighten up the flavors. And I also have a little bit of sugar in here. This just brings out the sweetness and the juices of the blackberry. And then it's essentially lobbing it on the top in blobs. It's not going to look super pretty, but once I kind of ripple it through, it will bake and kind of sink down into the blondie. So you kind of ripple it with like the back of a knife there.
And not that you're being slapdash at all, but I kind of like that with bacon, what puts me off is the precision that I'm always worried if I go, you know, there's no sort of wiggle room at all. But with this, it seems like it's fairly handy. Like, it's impressive, but a beginner can handle this.
It's handy, but I mean, it is precise. I have weighed out everything, and, you know, it is
Well, that's the thing
quite
about
precise.
bacon, isn't it? Because it,
Yeah.
too much baking powder and it could be destroyed.
Game over.
Exactly. So in the oven, about 25 to 30 minutes at 180 or 160 fan. Depends on your oven. It might take a little bit longer. I stick a little skewer in it, and then when it comes out clean, it's done. And that's it. I've baked one earlier here for you.
Look at
Cut
this.
it into squares, and then I've popped a little bit of just a few blackberries on top,
It looks
some lemon zest,
absolutely gorgeous.
Oh, that's lovely. And a little bit of...
Okay.
and then a little bit of icing sugar.
Can we eat? Can we have a
Go
go at
ahead.
this?
I have no ice cream or
The thing about the bacon is that, you know, even though before you put it in, you were saying it doesn't look, it might look a bit ugly, there might be a few imperfections. In the oven, it all disappears.
I mean, it all disappears. It sinks down. The blackberries kind of meld into the cheesecake, and the brownie. I was going to say the blondie is like a really nice kind of unusual texture as well. So,
But the cheesecake layer is really tasty with this.
really is.
can you get it? Because I was
Absolutely
afraid
gorgeous.
you couldn't.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
100%. Delicious.
You're going to hear a scatter from the gallery in a few minutes' time. People have been in touch with us. Sandra from Waterford said, talking about the Facebook glasses that Jess was talking about, they freak me out a little bit. The cameras are so tiny you can barely see them. It's definitely not the sort of thing for me, said Sandra.
Martin, the more I look at you, the more you look like you're wearing Facebook
Sorry?
Ray-Bans.
Could you say that again? Sorry?
Are you recording me?
Yeah, right now? Yeah.
Vanilla says, sorry, I can't wait to get the new iPhone.
It looks so handy for taking videos and photos. I'm putting it on my Christmas wish list right now. Honestly, if you look at they have it on YouTube, like the promotional video for the iPhone, the Pro Max. You could, as Jess said herself, you could be Steven Spielberg. It is unbelievable, the quality of the footage you can capture.
Gerald Mead said, I've seen Alicia live twice and she was so amazing. Her new album has some great bops on it too. I can't wait to see her live again. We were hoping that she'll be touring soon.
Amy says, my kids are obsessed with How Far I'll Go from Moana. They've played it so many times, I could probably sing the song backwards at this stage, and I can do that with Frozen. Let it go, for sure. That is all we have got time for tonight. A huge thank you to all of our guests this evening, and to Aoife Noonan for these beautiful blondies.
Aoife, thanks so much.
Gorgeous.
And record. Join us tomorrow from 6, where we'll be catching up with architect extraordinaire Hugh Wallace. We want to eat this. See you tomorrow.
Have a lovely evening.